Some verses from 1 Chronicles chapter 9, verse 1. The people of Judah were taken captive to Babylon because of their unfaithfulness. So, Judah was taken way after Israel, but not all of the people were unfaithful because there was a remnant that served God. But all of the people were taken captive. That shows us how precious our unity is in God's sight. Even though those didn't sin, they were still punished with those who did. They still had to suffer that kind of wrath for the disobedience of others. And so we've got to maintain our affection to Christ, most importantly, but we've got to maintain that united fellowship with one another. If someone's caught in a sin, the Bible tells us in Galatians chapter 6, verse 1, and other places in Matthew, to go confront that brother privately. Win your brother over. If he's in sin, don't treat him like a dog and expose him in front of everybody right there on the spot. Go to your brother in private, tender counsel and help him get on the right track, because we could all suffer from that like this. Ephesians 5:11 tells us, don't just stay away from that stuff, expose it. And so there's a time to expose sin. There's a time to confront in private, but there's a time when that person won't get over it, and we've got to expose it. So we'll head down to verse 11. Azariah, son of Hilkiah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Zadok, the son of Moriah, the son of Ahitub, an official in charge of the house of God. So we hear about a lot of preachers, big names on television, big people doing stuff for the Lord, like Phil Sanders. What a great guy. They're big names, and we expect that kind of upfront people, those kind of preachers, to be boasted about. But everybody's valuable to the Lord. This man was in charge of the house of God. So no matter what our task is, we've got to do it diligently with the right attitude. God looks at our attitude of the heart. God gives us these duties, and everybody has one. So no matter what it is, we ought not to complain about it, but zealously pursue it. 1 Chronicles 9, 22 through 32. Altogether, those chosen to be gatekeepers at the thresholds numbered 212. They were registered by genealogy in their villages. The gatekeepers had been assigned to their positions of trust by David and Samuel the seer. They and their descendants were in charge of guarding the gates of the house of the Lord, the house called the tent. Their gatekeepers were on 4 sides, east, west, north, and south. Their brothers in their villages had to come from time to time to share the duties for 7-day periods. But the 4 principal gatekeepers, who were Levites, were entrusted with the responsibility for the rooms and the treasuries of the house of God. They would spend the night stationed around the house of God because they had to guard it, and they had charge of the key for every morning to open it. Some of them were in charge of the articles used in the temple service. They counted them when they were brought in and when they were taken out. Others were assigned to take care of the furnishings of all the other articles in the sanctuary, as well as the flour and wine, the oil, incense, and spices. But some of the priests took care of mixing the spices. A Levite named Mattathiah, the firstborn of Shallum the Korathite, was entrusted with the responsibility for baking the offering bread. Some of their Kohathite brothers were in charge of preparing for every Sabbath for bread set out on the table. And so we have a lot of random duties here. We've got people that are in charge of the guarding things. We got people in charge of the doors, key holders, people in charge of bread, things like that. And that's how it is in the Church of Christ today. We have some people that open and unlock the building. Some people hold the key. And sometimes we might say that's not an important job, but somebody needs to do it for the Lord's church. Then there's other people that come clean, and that's a very, very important job. There's people that come and they prepare the Lord's Supper. There's people that count the money, and they're zealous and they're depended upon by us because they revere the Lord, and everything in His church should be pure like that. But also what we need to consider is no matter who held the key, no matter who was preparing the Lord's Supper or whatever they were doing, it says that people would come and relieve them of their duties so they could have some time off of that particular duty. And that's how it should be in the Lord's church. It shouldn't be someone's always preparing the Lord's Supper by themselves. Somebody should step in. It shouldn't be someone's always with the responsibility of opening and shutting the doors. It should be a passed along responsibility to people who are trusted in the Lord, who we know well in the Lord. Yes, we're all men, but we know one another well, and we trust the Lord. And so, no matter what it is, we've got to carefully prepare these things so that our worship is executed flawlessly, so that we can maintain that kind of focus on God. Sometimes we get so immersed in the things around us that when it says we conduct ourselves in a fitting and orderly way in the church, we fail to do that. We have such things in our life patterned and in order, yeah, maybe so we can get to church for that 1 hour a week. But then, how do we act that 1 hour a week? Just as we prepare to do some big event, just as we prepare to make a speech at school or wherever, just as we prepare to meet an important client or have an interview with the boss, we should take that kind of vital time to prepare ourselves to go to worship. so that our heart really is in it, so that our mind really is engaged, so that Jesus Christ unto God is the sole focus of our worship. As we commune with that bread and wine, we're not distracted because our hearts have been panting all week to get to this moment where we celebrate this together.